Sometimes in life, we face situations where not everyone likes us, and that's perfectly normal. But when you have to interact with someone who clearly doesn't like you, it can feel uncomfortable, tense, and even draining. The good news is you can learn to handle these conversations with confidence, calm, and respect. It's not about forcing them to like you, it's about protecting your peace, keeping your dignity, and communicating in a way that doesn't add fuel to the fire. When you have to talk to someone who doesn't like you, the first thing you need to understand is that it's not your job to win them over or to prove yourself to them. People carry their own baggage, their own insecurities, and their own reasons for disliking others. And most of the time, those reasons have very little to do with you. What you can control and what you should always protect is your own peace of mind. That means walking into the conversation without the weight of needing approval, without the pressure of trying to change someone's perspective, and without taking on responsibility for emotions that don't belong to you. The way you carry yourself sets the tone long before the first word is even spoken, so self-control is the foundation of everything else. If you can stay calm, centered, and intentional with your tone and words, you already have more power than you realize. When someone doesn't like you, it's tempting to match their energy or mirror their hostility, but that reaction only feeds the cycle and proves their point of view right in their eyes. You break the cycle by refusing to take the bait. Think about how much strength it takes to stay silent when someone throws a sarcastic jab, or how much composure it requires to respond with clarity instead of anger. That is the type of discipline that communicates confidence without ever having to raise your voice. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. Composure is not passivity, it's control. The person who doesn't like you expects you to explode, expects you to be defensive, and expects you to validate their negativity. The last thing they expect is for you to hold steady, and that is exactly why it's the most powerful response you can give. It's also important to keep the focus on what actually matters instead of letting their attitude steer the conversation off course. People who dislike you will often try to pull you into side arguments, distract you with irrelevant points, or test your patience with sarcasm or dismissive tones. The best thing you can do in that moment is to redirect and stay on track. Bring the discussion back to the actual topic, the issue that needs resolution, or the point you came to make. Every time you do that, you reinforce that you are there with purpose, not pettiness. It's easy to get lost in defending yourself, in correcting every misunderstanding, or in trying to set the record straight. But the truth is, most of the time, they're not interested in clarity. They're interested in conflict. When you recognize that, you learn to conserve your energy for the things that truly deserve it. Boundaries are another essential tool when speaking with someone who doesn't like you. Boundaries don't have to be aggressive or confrontational. They can be simple, clear, and firm lines that keep you from being pulled into drama. A boundary might look like choosing not to engage with insults, refusing to be interrupted repeatedly, or ending a conversation that turns toxic. Boundaries protect your peace, and they also teach the other person how you expect to be treated. When you set limits with confidence and without hostility, you demonstrate respect for yourself, and that signals to others that you won't be manipulated or disrespected. Boundaries aren't about punishing someone else, they're about protecting your own mental and emotional space. Another thing to remember is that respect is never wasted, even if it isn't returned. You don't have to agree with someone, you don't have to like them, and you don't even have to trust them to still show respect in the way you communicate. Respect shows up in your tone, in your body language, and in your ability to listen without interruption. When you remain respectful, even when the other person refuses to do the same, you make it clear that your character isn't dependent on their behavior. That's how you rise above the negativity and set yourself apart. Respect is less about how they deserve to be treated and more about how you choose to carry yourself. It becomes less about their dislike and more about your discipline. The hardest part about talking to someone who doesn't like you is not falling into the trap of self-doubt. You might start questioning yourself, wondering what you did wrong, or feeling the urge to win them over. But the reality is, some people will never be satisfied no matter what you do. That's why the key is shifting your mindset from trying to be liked to choosing to be respected. Respect lasts longer than approval, and it isn't as easily swayed by emotions. If you anchor yourself in that principle, you can walk into any conversation knowing that your worth is not on trial. The moment you stop seeking validation is the moment you start gaining true confidence. At the end of the day, how you talk to someone who doesn't like you is not about changing their opinion. It's about protecting your peace, maintaining your composure, staying on track, setting boundaries, and leading with respect. You can't control how they feel about you, but you can always control how you respond, and that is where your real strength lies. When you're facing someone who doesn't like you, the second key to remember is not to take the bait, because the moment you react out of impulse, you hand over your power. People who dislike you often want a reaction. They want to see you flustered, defensive, or angry, because that reaction justifies their negative opinion of you. They feed off the energy you give them. So when you give them nothing but composure, you take away the satisfaction they're looking for. Think of it like a game where they're tossing out hooks, waiting for you to bite. But the real strength is in recognizing those hooks for what they are and refusing to grab hold. Every time you choose composure over conflict, you're reinforcing the idea that their dislike has no control over you, and that is a position of quiet strength that speaks louder than any sharp comeback ever could. Silence can be one of your strongest tools in these moments, because silence unsettles people who expect a fight. When they make a cutting remark, they expect retaliation, but silence leaves them with nowhere to go. It creates space, and in that space, they realize you're not willing to meet them at their level. That silence communicates more than words ever could. It communicates that you are secure, unshaken, and unwilling to let their negativity dictate your mood. It also gives you time to think, to gather yourself, and to decide the best way forward instead of responding emotionally in the moment. Many people mistake silence for weakness, but silence in the right context is confidence on display. And that's what makes it such a powerful response. Another way to avoid taking the bait is to practice neutrality in your responses. Neutral doesn't mean you're dismissive or uncaring. It means you respond with clarity, with calm, and with no extra fuel added to the fire. It might be as simple as acknowledging what they said without diving into argument, or giving a short answer that ends the exchange instead of expanding it. Neutrality keeps the conversation steady and makes it harder for the other person to escalate. The less you react, the less they have to work with, and eventually they run out of energy trying to provoke you. Your neutral response becomes a wall that protects your peace, and over time, that wall is what keeps you from being drained by their negativity. It's also worth remembering that bait often comes disguised as small jabs or subtle digs, the kind of comments designed to make you question yourself. These are the moments that test your patience because the temptation to clap back is strong. But here's the truth. Your silence or calm redirection is not about letting them win. It's about refusing to lose yourself. Every time you rise to the bait, you give them control over your emotions. And the more you do it, the more they realize they can manipulate you. But when you refuse, when you choose calm instead of conflict, you break that pattern and show them that their words don't hold the weight they think they do. That shift in dynamic can change the entire tone of your interactions over time. Body language also plays a huge role in not taking the bait, because it's not just about what you say, it's about how you carry yourself. Crossing your arms, rolling your eyes, or showing visible frustration is just another way of reacting, and those reactions can feed their sense of control. Instead, practice open, relaxed body language, steady eye contact, and calm gestures. That physical composure reinforces your verbal composure, making it clear that you are in control from the inside out. It's not just about acting unbothered, it's about actually embodying calmness. And that creates a powerful message that you can't be easily shaken. Not taking the bait also means knowing when to disengage altogether. Walking away, changing the subject, or refusing to argue over something trivial doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise enough to protect your energy. Some battles aren't worth fighting, especially with people who don't have your best interest in mind. When you learn to step back instead of stepping in, you're making a conscious choice to prioritize peace over pettiness. Disengagement isn't surrender, it's strategy, and it shows that you value your own peace more than proving a point to someone who has already made up their mind about you. At its core, not taking the bait is about discipline. It's about recognizing the traps set for you and choosing not to walk into them. It's about staying calm when everything in you wants to react, holding your composure when you're tested, and keeping your peace when someone else tries to disrupt it. You can't control how someone feels about you, but you can control how you handle their negativity. And that control is where your strength comes from. When you're dealing with someone who doesn't like you, the third key is to stay on topic, because negativity has a way of pulling you off track. The moment you let their attitude or their personal comments become the center of the conversation, you've already lost focus on what matters most. People who dislike you will often try to derail the discussion, throwing in personal digs or distractions to get you caught up in defending yourself instead of addressing the issue at hand. Staying on topic requires discipline because the temptation to correct every accusation or respond to every insult is strong, but the more you engage with the side drama, the less effective the conversation becomes. Your strength lies in redirecting the discussion back to the point, back to the facts, and back to the purpose of why you're even talking in the first place. It's easy to confuse winning an argument with resolving a situation, but they are not the same thing. Winning an argument might give you temporary satisfaction, but it rarely creates long-term solutions. Staying on topic means choosing resolution over ego, clarity over conflict, and progress over proving a point. This doesn't mean you avoid addressing real issues. It means you refuse to waste energy on distractions that don't serve the outcome you want. You protect your focus by constantly asking yourself, does this response move me closer to the solution or just deeper into the drama? If it doesn't move you closer, it's a distraction, and distractions only benefit the person who wants to see you lose your composure. There's also a power in repetition when staying on topic, because sometimes people will keep circling back to their personal dislike, trying to bait you into acknowledging it. Instead of getting dragged into their circle, you can calmly repeat your point, calmly redirect the conversation to the matter at hand, and calmly refuse to deviate from the purpose. Over time, that repetition makes it clear that you're not interested in their side arguments. You're interested in addressing what matters. It also sends a message that you're not easily manipulated or swayed by emotional tactics. And that level of consistency is what creates respect, even from people who don't like you. They may not agree with you, but they'll know you're not easily thrown off balance. Another aspect of staying on topic is controlling your emotions, because emotions have a way of clouding judgment and steering the conversation into personal territory. When you feel anger rising or frustration building, that's usually the moment when the other person has successfully pulled you off course. Staying calm doesn't mean you don't feel those emotions. It means you refuse to let them dictate your direction. By grounding yourself, taking a breath, and speaking with intention, you keep the focus exactly where it needs to be. That calm focus not only protects you, but also makes it harder for the other person to escalate the situation. When they see that their dislike doesn't affect your clarity, they lose leverage, and that's a shift in power. Clarity in communication also supports your ability to stay on topic, because vague words and unclear explanations open the door for misunderstandings and conflict. The more precise you are with your words, the less room there is for the other person to twist or misinterpret them. Clear communication is like a roadmap that keeps both people on track, even if they don't like each other. It reduces confusion, minimizes arguments, and creates structure in a conversation that might otherwise spiral out of control. By keeping your language focused and intentional, you create boundaries within the conversation itself, boundaries that guide both parties toward the outcome without unnecessary detours. Another thing to consider is that staying on topic shows maturity and leadership, because anyone can get dragged into side arguments. but it takes self-control to rise above them. When you keep pulling the focus back to what matters, you're showing that you value solutions more than drama, progress more than pride, and peace more than conflict. That kind of maturity doesn't just protect you, it sets an example for others who may be watching how you handle the situation. Whether it's in a workplace, a family, or a social setting, your ability to stay centered becomes a demonstration of emotional intelligence, and that carries influence far beyond the conversation itself. At the heart of it, staying on topic is about discipline, focus, and self control. It's the ability to filter out the noise, ignore the unnecessary jabs, and keep your energy directed toward what matters most. It's not about proving yourself to someone who doesn't like you. It's about proving to yourself that you can handle difficult interactions without losing your clarity. That clarity becomes your strength, your anchor, and your advantage in conversations where the other person wants to see you slip. The more you practice it, the more you realize that staying on topic isn't just a tactic for one conversation. It's a mindset that carries into every interaction you have. When you're talking to someone who doesn't like you, the fourth key is to use boundaries because boundaries are what keep you from being consumed by their negativity. Without boundaries, you'll find yourself getting pulled into arguments you never wanted to have, listening to comments you don't need to hear, and tolerating behavior that drains you. Boundaries don't mean you put up walls so high that no one can reach you. They mean you create clear lines that protect your peace and define how you will and will not engage. They give structure to your communication so you don't get lost in the chaos of someone else's emotions. When you step into a conversation knowing your limits, you walk in stronger because you're not at the mercy of what the other person decides to throw your way. Boundaries can be as simple as deciding not to engage with insults or not allowing someone to repeatedly interrupt you when you're speaking. They can also look like limiting the amount of time you spend in conversations that you know will only turn toxic. The key is that your boundaries are clear, firm, and respectful. You don't have to announce them in an aggressive way. You simply enforce them with your actions. If someone tries to cross the line, you calmly bring it back. If they refuse to respect your space, you give yourself permission to step away. Boundaries are less about controlling the other person and more about controlling yourself. They are reminders that your well-being matters too, even when someone else doesn't recognize it. It's common to feel guilty about setting boundaries because you might worry it makes you cold or difficult, but the truth is, boundaries are a sign of self-respect, not selfishness. When you let others treat you however they want, you send the message that your feelings and time don't matter. But when you establish limits, you're teaching people how to treat you, and that lesson is necessary if you want healthier interactions. Even with someone who doesn't like you, boundaries can set the tone. They might not like you, but they will learn that you won't tolerate being disrespected. Over time, this shift can even reduce conflict because they realize that their usual tactics no longer get the reaction they expect. Boundaries are also about emotional distance because you can't control how someone else feels, but you can control how close you let their feelings get to you. If you allow their dislike to sink in and dictate your mood, you've lost the boundary between their perspective and your self-worth. Emotional boundaries mean recognizing that their opinion doesn't define you and that their dislike doesn't require your approval or your energy. This kind of distance protects you from internalizing negativity and helps you stay grounded in your own value. You learn to separate who you are from how they feel, and that separation is what keeps you strong in the face of hostility. Another part of boundaries is being intentional with your responses, because not every comment deserves an answer. Sometimes the best boundary is silence, and other times it's a short, neutral response that closes the door to further conflict. You don't owe anyone a debate, and you don't owe anyone unlimited access to your time or emotions. When you remember that, you free yourself from the pressure of constantly defending or explaining yourself. Intentional responses show that you're in control of what you give, and that self control is what keeps the conversation from spiraling out of your hands. The consistency of your boundaries matters as much as setting them because if you set them once but fail to uphold them, they lose their strength. People will test your limits to see if you really mean what you say, and when you consistently enforce your boundaries with calm confidence, they start to understand that you're serious. Consistency builds trust in yourself too, because every time you follow through, you remind yourself that your peace is worth protecting. That steady practice makes boundaries second nature, not just in difficult conversations, but in every area of your life. And that is how you build resilience against negativity. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out, they're about keeping yourself whole. They create the structure that allows you to engage with others without losing yourself in the process. They let you show up with respect while still protecting your own dignity. And when you practice boundaries with people who don't like you, you prove to yourself that you can stay calm, confident, and in control, even in the most challenging interactions. When you're talking to someone who doesn't like you, the fifth key is to focus on respect because respect is a reflection of your character, not theirs. It's easy to match someone's negativity with your own, to give them the same coldness or hostility they give you, but that only pulls you down to their level. Respect is not about agreeing with someone or even liking them. It's about choosing to carry yourself with dignity, no matter how the other person behaves. When you keep your words respectful and your tone controlled, you show that you value yourself enough not to let someone else's dislike make you abandon your standards. Respect becomes less about them and more about you proving to yourself that you can stay true to who you are in difficult moments. Respect shows up in the small things, like listening without cutting someone off, maintaining steady eye contact, or keeping your body language calm even when they're trying to provoke you. It shows up in choosing not to raise your voice, not to use sarcasm, and not to turn the conversation into a competition. These little decisions build up to something bigger because they send the message that you're not there to play games, you're there to communicate with clarity and composure. Even if they don't notice it in the moment, other people around you will, and most importantly, you will. Respect in your behavior creates self-respect, and that's the type of confidence that sticks with you long after the conversation ends. One of the biggest misconceptions is that showing respect means letting people walk all over you, but it's actually the opposite. Respect and boundaries work together because you can still stand firm while speaking calmly, you can still walk away while keeping your words measured, and you can still hold people accountable without lowering yourself to insults. Respect doesn't weaken you. It strengthens you because it shows that you can remain disciplined no matter what comes your way. Anyone can lose their cool and anyone can retaliate, but it takes a stronger person to keep control while still making their point. That level of control doesn't make you passive, it makes you powerful. Respect also builds long-term influence because while someone may not like you today, the way you carry yourself can shift how others view you over time. Even if their opinion of you never changes, others who witness your composure will remember it. They'll see that you didn't crumble under pressure, that you didn't lash out when tested, and that you didn't allow someone else's dislike to define your behavior. Respect leaves an impression, and impressions shape reputations. A reputation built on consistent respect will carry more weight than one built on proving you're right in the heat of a single moment. Focusing on respect also protects you from regret because when you lose control, you often walk away wishing you had handled things differently. But when you handle yourself with respect, you never have to apologize for staying calm. You never have to undo words spoken in anger, and you never have to feel like you lost a part of yourself in the exchange. That peace of mind is valuable because it reminds you that you can face negativity without letting it change who you are. Respect becomes the filter through which you choose your words and actions, and that filter saves you from carrying unnecessary weight after the conversation is over. Respect is also powerful because it disarms people. When someone expects hostility but receives calmness, when they expect attitude but hear clarity, it throws them off balance. They realize that their dislike has no effect on your ability to stay composed, and that realization can shift the dynamic completely. They might not admit it, but respect often earns quiet acknowledgement, and even if it doesn't, it removes their ability to control you through negativity. By choosing respect, you protect your emotional energy, and that is a type of power that no one can take from you. At the end of the day, focusing on respect is about making a choice to lead with character even when it's not reciprocated. It's about proving to yourself that your standards don't bend under pressure and that your dignity is non-negotiable. It's about remembering that how you speak, how you act, and how you carry yourself says more about you than anyone else's opinion ever could.